Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 1 of the Multiple Calls podcast. I initially thought it would be best for me to do the first episode solo. It's really important to me that the leaders in our service, past and present, are acknowledged and given the credit they deserve, from mentoring us in person or from afar to where we are today. Not only have they taught us and led by example, but they've also created lasting resources of their knowledge for us to reference and pass along to the next generation. But the more I thought of the list, the longer it got, and I quickly realized that it would be best for me to compile the who and what I was aware of in one place for everyone to access. You can find it on the Multiple Calls website at multiplecalls.squarespace.com. That being foremost, secondarily, you can also read a short description of who I am and what this podcast is all about. However, even with all that being made available, there are a few people I'd like to thank as we launch into this, for their reinvigorating my purpose and responsibility on the job and inspiring me to jump headlong into this endeavor. Aaron Fields and the entire Nozzle Forward cadre, Mark Von Appen of Fully Involved, Jared Sergey of Trial by Fire, Stephen Tyler of the Refined by Fire podcast, and a special acknowledgement of Zeus, aka Peter Reed, for many reasons, but in regards to this venture, graciously driving through blizzard conditions for an hour and a half to record episode 1 with me, waiting patiently as I struggle with many technical issues, and laying down the interview that would quickly be lost to a damn dirty machine, and for still having the care and understanding and committing to coming back again for another kick at the can, so episode 2 it'll be. We adapt and overcome. Well, one of the recruit classes I helped instruct was loving enough to point out a phrase that I used consistently enough to warrant etching it into a glass mug for me. Are we good? Yeah? Okay, moving on. The first surviving conversation that I'm happy to share with you is with Jordan Paris. Jordan has a really interesting background and path to the fire service and is now 20 years into his career. We connected early on with a shared interest and drive in the combat challenge. He's been an Honor Guard member for more than 10 years and is currently commander of that proud and exceptional group. He's embraced his role as a true senior firefighter in our department, and it shows through in his continuing deep passion and excitement for the job. We could have talked all day, but I'm sure you'll enjoy the time we had. Thanks for being here. I hope you keep coming back. And now I bring you Jordan Paris. Jordan, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you. Well, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, so it was a bit of a drive up for you, and I know when I had Zeus up, he had blizzard conditions as well, so hopefully this isn't the way it is for everybody that's coming.
Hey, no worries. I'm a northerner at heart, so it was a normal drive for me.
Yeah.
Just looking out for everyone else.
And we'll give Jeff Clayton a warning. He's next. Like, make sure you got your winters on, right?
No matter what month it is.
Yeah. And I've had some tech issues. This has been a learning experience for me, right? It's like a new world, but we're solidly set up now. So yeah, I'm happy to have you here and in the seat.
This is wonderful. Very professional looking.
Right on. So start off, tell me about what you did before. Like, let's talk about what you did before the department, and then what led you to the department, why you're in it.
Okay, let's. I'll take it back. I'll do a timeline, maybe of where the passion started from, but I'll keep it Cole's notes a little bit because I could go off on when I was a kid stories. But being a military brat, so I grew up on military bases, and my dad is a physical training instructor for the military, so a lot of people knew him in that aspect. I was a kid watching him run the boot camps for the military, leading honor guards, ceremonial units, and then when we were in one of the military bases I lived at, when I was probably around 10 years old, there was a fire on my street. This is one of those like quintessential, like, okay, this sounds good in a resume.
Right.
But like when I went to my resume, when I went to the interviews and I had a document to prove the story, that kind of was like, okay, this guy's no joke. So I was 10, the fire trucks scream by my house. I can see the smoke a block or two away. I run over as a kid, because this is back when you could let your kids just go free. Go on your bike, be back by 5.
Yeah.
Or when the street lights come on, be close enough that we can hear you and call you. But so I ran around the corner, saw these firefighters ladder a house, second floor, go in and pull somebody out of a smoky, burning building. As a kid, that was like superhero. Like I hadn't seen that before. I'd seen fire trucks sitting in the stations. And as a kid, you know about the firemen and the police officers. But to see it live and go, like, without any hesitation, everything rolled out like clockwork. Yet these guys had no clue what they were going into. They didn't know the layout of the house. I remember standing there going, I want to do that. And it was the first time I was pulled away from my other passion, which was being a fighter pilot, a jet pilot.
Sure.
Being in the military, you have to understand, I saw a lot of air shows. My dad took me to every air show you could think of. Ones where there was static displays to sit in the jets, even ones where helicopters were taking us for rides. So my natural growth towards the military was that I want to be a pilot.
Yeah.
So I groomed my education for that until the day I saw this. So that created the priority in my life. So as I went through high school, and they ask you in grade 11, what do you want to be what do you want to do with your life? And I was like, I want to be a fighter pilot. Royal Military College, I want to go. And my dad was obviously proud. I'm following in the military path, but he's like, do what you want. Like, you've seen how we move around the country.
Yeah.
Living everywhere from Calgary to Goose Bay, Labrador, and all the little spots in between is kind of how I grew up. I ended up in CFB Borden and saw that event with the firefighters. So that took me on a ride of prioritizing fighter pilot, firefighter, and then my backup was phys ed teacher because my dad's fitness instructor. So I thought, hey, I could be a phys ed teacher and teach sports because that's what I did. So
he was a huge influence.
Huge influence. And my family was a solid family, like the Cosby family. He's passed now, but back in 2000, he passed before 9/11, so the August before. So he didn't ever got to see a world post 9/11, right? Wow. But yeah, so that passion drove me. And when I got to high school, I did chase the jet pilot. But when I got to Royal Military College, I was 6'3", and they said our cutoff height is 6'2".
Wow.
For the ejection seats. At the time, things may have changed.
Sure.
But at the time, they said, you can't be an F-18. You could be a commercial pilot, for 747. I'm like, no. It's like it's all or nothing. So I pulled away from that dream and then just started chasing fire like crazy.
It's interesting that we share a lot of things, like years on and mentality and we'll get into combat. Like, that's how you and I met, right? But I didn't know that about you, and I actually went to school for to be a pilot too, to start off. That was my first. And my dad was in the fire service.
Okay.
And I had this whole I don't want to do what he does, right? Like, just like the rebel kind of kid.
Right.
So I sort of chased that, and then I realized, it's a longer story, but I realized it was in my blood.
Wow.
And it's what I'm meant to do. So I didn't know we shared that as well.
It's interesting because the same passion that drove me they became almost equal, and then fire almost started to override it, because then I realized that pilots can only do so many things, whereas fire, there's so many facets to fire. There's so many specialty skills.
Sure.
There's so much that they do. So when I got into university and it was basically chasing, I realized, okay, I got to switch gears. I started to chase. Well, right away I was already interested in fire, but I didn't really know what to do. And this is back in the 90s when you basically join a fire department. Couple of rumors were you had to know somebody, or you had to be like crazy fit. Now I'm talking about being up north in the northern part of Ontario. The rumors were, if you want to be a police officer or firefighter, you need to be jacked.
Navy
like
SEAL level.
Like if you can't do 12 chin-ups easily, forget about even trying, because that's the breaking point of where they'll just say you're done.
Right.
Well, I can't do 12 chin-ups, so it was very scary, because I was like, I need to start hitting it. I became a gym rat, which, as you see, my dad being physical fitness, he gave us he was allowed to give us a membership at the base, at that military base. So I became the biggest gym. Like, this is back before CrossFit days, but I guess it would have been the version of CrossFitters.
Was he giving you guidance on that too, or just access?
Yeah, no. Well, access was first. He said, nope. If this is your dream, then chase it. And he says, and work out. So I would work out every night from 7 to 9, pretty much at the gym when it was quieter. It wasn't too busy at the other times. But my brother and I would go in there. But yeah, he had the disciplines of how to make your body perfect. Well, he builds military people, so he definitely played a hand in that. So that was really, really good, because then I got more confident in the physical structure of the job. Like, when the physical fitness test is going to happen, I'm going to rip it out of the water. Like, I was training at an ability that put me, whatever they said the benchmark was going to be, 40 push-ups, I was training at 60 or 70 because I wanted them to see that it looked easy to me, right? And as 40 is the pass, I'll do 15 more, just to say in your face. Like, so I was hoping that would carry through when the instructors were watching. Everybody got a pass, but this one guy just ripped it. Like, he did extra.
And that's been a mentality, I think, that I've heard recently through a lot of guys are trying to bring things back to the service, right? About minimum standards or set maximum expectations.
Yeah.
Right. So,
But it does create a filter and creates a where maybe you'll see more passion. The filter will catch more of the passionate ones, I think.
Yeah.
If that they didn't just take it to a passing mark, they took it further and were prepared to go further. Had the day they said, by the way, we're changing the regimen. It's now 50 push-ups.
Sure.
Some people would be like, I've only ever done 40. Right.
I trained for 60. Good. Make it 60.
And put weights on my back.
Yeah.
Like that's what I mean. That's
Yeah.
the kind of mentality I went into it. So chasing that, I actually started trying out to get on departments everywhere. I'm sure most firefighters do.
Yeah.
Try every city. Like I wasn't, because I'd moved around Canada, I never felt like I had a home.
Interesting.
I mean, born in Halifax, Nova Scotia, only by birth, but then moving to Digby and Yarmouth and Goose Bay and Calgary and all over the place. As a kid, you go, I'm only going to be here for 2 years.
Yeah.
Make the most of it.
You saw Canada as your
I
home.
saw Canada, so it's like I can do this wherever. It's not really going to matter. I'll try to fit in. I'll just blend.
Yeah.
And so I just said, okay, like everyone, write the tests, pay the money. Back then it was just, DZ license, CPR, first aid, and like grade 12 education. Like I had it made. There was no Texas. There was no fire college.
Sure.
The minimum, but it was getting through the fitness is where they put the big stress back then. Was the fitness was like most people will fail the fitness day.
Right.
Then they'll do the written, which they can get by, a 2-hour exam, which is the same kind now. It's still the written exam. And then the interview. So prior to while waiting to become a firefighter, this one always got me in the interviews I was a grave digger.
Yeah.
So
I noticed that when you wrote me your bio. I'm like, that is super interesting.
And that always created an interesting conversation during interviews, which was a good icebreaker because they would skip past a lot of the information and that would jump out at them.
Yeah.
And then their natural curiosity as a human was like, so did you like bury people? And what about crematoriums? Like, how do they work? Do people actually go in with a casket, like a beautiful? So they had all these weird. I'm thinking, am I in an interview for grave digging, or is this fire? But I guess it just took. It's not a job that. It started out as a grass. My buddy said, you want to make $6 an hour cutting grass when minimum wage was $5.25. What do you mean? He says, yeah, it's just at a cemetery. You just get on a riding mower and drive around all day. I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That led to more and more. 10 years later, running the crematorium, running 3 different cemeteries, and doing everything from full graveside funeral services to disinterments, digging people out of their grave when they want to be moved to, say, Toronto.
Right.
All the facets of crematoriums, everything. It was to the point where I was saying, I'm underpaid right now. Everyone would say, how much do you get paid for that? I'm like, just minimum wage, man. And so that grave digging kept me busy, kept me physical, lots of digging, lots of hand bombing, getting to know tools. And I was always thinking, what can I do that will help my resume?
Sure.
So back then it was, I'll become a scuba diver.
Right.
Because apparently breathing apparatus and claustrophobia are wrapped into one. If you can scuba dive with a breathing apparatus on and you're underwater, you obviously don't have much claustrophobia, and you have understanding of breathing apparatus and having something on your face. Yeah. So that was a big thing on people. They used to look, are you NAUI or PADI certified?
Did the same, yeah.
That was like a good little check mark for you.
Yeah. Trusting your equipment.
Knowing
how to check equipment.
Big one, right?
Yeah.
Knowing the limitations of your equipment, where you can go and not go, or what do or not do. So I did some scuba. I did some truck driving. I worked for a trucking company because trucks are a firefighter. So I worked for Pro North. I'll shout them out. I had a good experience there where there was a fire one night while I was working and I put it out. I just grabbed an extinguisher and put it out, and then I got all kinds of these accolades, and they thought I saved the company, and it was ridiculous. I said all I did was I saw some flame against the electrical panel. There was a dry cam right there. I went, psh, psh. He's like, yeah, but you're quick thinking and da-da-da. But it timed out perfectly because one of my interviews that was in there, and they're like, it says here recently you put out a fire while at work. And so truck driving, pizza delivery driving. I worked for Pizza. I've done clothing retail. I've done all that. But it's just, those were the things. I only chose things that would be good on a fire resume.
Right.
And people are like, pizza driving. Think about it. Knowing the streets of the city you live in, there's no greater way to know the side streets. It's one thing to take major arteries to get somewhere, but to get off that main route and go down the side roads to get you there as quickly as possible, they're like, oh, I never thought of that. And I was like, yeah, well, I can deliver pizzas in under 14 minutes all the way across the city on a bad snowy day because I know all the side roads. So
you probably take something like this for granted because it's just natural in you, and maybe you don't even realize like that. Maybe your parents instilled it in you, but this work ethic, and then the way to have delayed gratification of a goal and deconstruct it, and then put the time in.
Yeah, my parents weren't against me having a car, even a motorcycle, and my dad just said, "But I'm not buying it for you because you won't look after it. So you can work at the graveyard and work a couple side jobs, and if you can get the money to pay for the course that the government will sign you off on it, and you can find yourself a bike, then who am I to stop you? You're an 18, 19-year-old guy. You did the right steps, and you paid. Now, getting things that I pay for, it's funny. You really do look after it because the amount of work that went in, the hours that went into that money, you don't want to waste it. And you wouldn't do reckless things with it because you're thinking, I paid for this. I don't want to wreck this. Those brought up C lessons, I guess you could say, from my parents. They did instill a sense of independence, like doing things for yourself so that you will look after it yourself.
I remember that going back to school and paying it for myself. And what kind of grades I got versus when you just you're expected to show up.
Just have a pulse, and it's all looked after.
Yeah, when it's your own money, you're shooting A's.
Yeah, well, yeah, right. You want to go as far as you can. I know a lot of my friends in that thread would come home in the summer and have summer jobs to pay for the next year of school.
Yeah,
or at least their parents would say, "We'll match what you make."
Sure.
So that at least half of it was covered by yourself, the books and whatever. So
you get scaffolded, right? Like,
right.
Yeah. We'll help you stand up, and then as you get better, we'll take the scaffold down.
Yeah. So the magical day happened.
So then, how many years was this? Like from the decision to getting on? Like
good one. So when I was 20, that was when I stopped chasing the jet fighter pilot stuff, and I was grooming myself for the fire department. And I still had a backup. I got into Queens. I was a jock. I went into Queens University and did a year there. It's highly expensive at the time. I don't come from a rich family, so I came back and went to another university in North Bay. And so, anyways, that was for this Plan C. If you remember, I said teaching phys ed. So I always was like, I need to have Plan Bs. Like I need to know that if this doesn't work, I'm not just euchred.
Yeah.
So I always was like, I'll go to school and I'll try to get my degree so I can be a phys ed teacher.
Right.
In the meantime, I'm going to just do everything I can for fire.
Yeah.
And
you had a fallback, right?
A fallback. So when I was 20, I said, listen, if I'm not a firefighter by 25, then that's it. And now I don't know where that came from. I think it came from the fact that it wasn't like, well, we hire people at now departments hire at 35 and 40.
Right.
It wasn't that someone told me you can't get on the department.
Yeah.
It was that I didn't want to give myself this like elaborate window of time.
You needed a little pressure.
I need pressure.
Yeah.
And I was like, create the pressure yourself so that you will be like, oh crap, there's only 2 more years.
But realistically, like I'm not going to get on in a year, say.
No. So
give me 5.
I was like, you know what? The first time I do these tests, it'll literally be reconnaissance. So I went in working my hardest to go. I want to blow it out of the water, and I only want to do this once.
Right.
But in the back of my mind, I was like, this really is just reconnaissance because I'll be back to do it better the second time.
That's amazing.
So what I did was show me the physical and show me this written exam, and writing all these different types of written exams all over Ontario. There's psych exams. There's ones that are like messed up. You're just like, you come out of it and someone says, how'd you do? I have no clue. Like I usually had a pretty good, I think I did good.
Sure.
Some of these exams I walked out just throwing my hands in the air and going, well, it was an experience.
Right.
And I'll learn a little bit from that and take it to the next one. So I wasn't against the failure of it sucks because I'm not a guy, I'm competitive being a sports guy.
Right.
I'm very competitive when it comes to sports that I play. And if you knew me growing up, you knew it's not something he likes to do is lose. It's not in his nature.
Yeah, but your game you were playing this time was a game to win.
It was.
Your win, though, was just set differently. And this process, writing a test, that wasn't the win.
No.
Right?
No, it was significantly going into something to show and prove to them that you need to hire me. You need to hire me for these reasons, or like I need you to know that I'm already a firefighter. Yeah. You just need to hire me, and then I wanted to have that attitude going in, and so I got the job up north in a smaller city when I was 24, and I remember saying, remember before the phone call from the city, I remember saying to myself, I only have 1 more year, Seriously though, if you think of it, this is my own brain. No one was. I could have tried when I was 26, 27, 28. Heck, I'm still, they would say, a young guy.
Sure.
And but I was like, nope. I'm like, if it's not happening before 25, I'm gonna have to go back and be a phys ed teacher. Nothing against that. No disrespect. My wife's a teacher, but like,
you had your hierarchy of goals.
It was I can't chase this forever.
You gave up fighter pilot.
And that was wow. There's still days I just when I see jets and when I just
I think we all have that.
It's just like,
right.
Not that fire is you know what I mean.
Fighter pilots want to be astronauts.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Exactly. Yeah, that's
some people want to colonize Mars. There's always levels.
I think there's nothing wrong though with somebody literally shooting for the stars, shooting for a career that may be almost unattainable, because where you fall will then be something that still is a very small percentage of people that get it.
Well, through the process, you'll find out either that's exactly what you're supposed to do,
right? I think,
or you'll find what you're really supposed to do.
Exactly, where your calling.
That's what I like for me, right? I just realized that a couple events happened. I'm like, what can I do that's this, and this?
Right.
Oh, it's what Dad does.
Yeah. Right. No kidding. Where can I see leadership in the community?
Yeah.
Where can I see helping people? Where can I see my physical fitness pay off?
Yeah.
And you're like, firefighting.
Yeah.
So for me, and it's funny because, people may say to me, was there ever a time where you thought about police? And I was like, no, it was always fire.
Mm-hmm.
I said, and I think it was from that incident when I was a little kid, watching those guys go in that house.
Right.
So I went to school after that, just to go back a bit, and I drew a picture of that event with crayons, which I still have to this day.
Come on.
And
that's great.
And I won a competition. So, the fire life safety back then was fire prevention.
Sure.
They chose my art piece as the winner,
wow.
and I got to go to a hall and get a tour, and they gave me this little award, those certificates back in the day, right?
Yeah.
So that's what's in my interview resume package, and they're turning as they turn, what's this? I'm like, it's just an award I won when I was 10.
You should have put the picture in there too.
Well, there's a picture of the picture. Me fantastic. Holding the paint, the coloring with the little certificate. They're like, is this for real? I'm like, yeah. So it did start early in my life.
Yeah,
the love.
You really had this idyllic.
I said, like, I'm
after school movie kind of.
I'm not joking. I said, I'm going to tell you a story, and the proof is on page 8. Right. And they're like, what? I said, don't turn there yet. I said, when I was young, this calling called to me. I said, and there's the proof. I go, I'm not even joking. Right. So, yeah, it's been in and it was interesting is my family has military background, but there's nobody in my family that was firefighter. Like, I'm talking my mom and my dad's side. Right now, there's myself, and there's 2 cousins on my dad's side that are RCMP. And we're the only emergency service kids in the family, which is very interesting because for me, that was built my confidence up, that I made it into a career that wasn't backed by, heaped with ancestors of a pedigree, like, it's in your destiny because your whole family did it, so blah, blah, blah.
Right.
It's like, no, I actually got into a career that nobody has treaded down that road yet. So like a trailblazer, right? Yeah. Kind of like
that resonates with me because when I started trying, I didn't want any help from my dad whatsoever, right? Because when I got the job, I wanted to make sure I got the job.
Yes,
and you wouldn't. And knowing a bit about the fire service, I didn't want that following me in there.
No.
Oh, you're here because of
that's. And I got mad one day when the chief said, "Oh, I've golfed with your father. I know everyone knows Gus." I was like, "Damn it! Don't tell me that my resume had anything to do with the fact that you knew my father, who works on base and looks after the fitness." Like,
well, because the delayed gratification is almost stolen from you, right?
Right.
Here, you put all this thought and effort in.
Yes.
And that would have just got you on.
Oh yeah,
I could have just dropped Gus. And rolled in here.
Yeah. 24 years of age, I'm starting my career in the smaller northern city, full time, not volunteer. They had no composite; it was full time, 3 stations, and there was no training. There was no training division, so there was no 12-week, 4-week, 1 week. It was you show up on your first day with your shirt and tie and your gym bag, and you say, "Hi, I'm the rookie, Jordan Paris.
Right.
What do you want me to do?" And they're like, "Okay, well, so and so will show you around to your locker, and we'll get you going, and we're just having, And it was
and you're on a truck.
And I was literally on a truck, and I was like, I'm coming from Joe Schmo civilian.
Yes.
So just so you guys know, like, I'm not coming from another department. Like, I don't know anything.
Yeah.
Don't worry. You'll learn as you go. We'll train you and we'll show you things. So when I cut to meeting my wife up where I lived in North Bay, up there, and then coming. So she's a city girl. She's from the GTA. So when she's like, I'm only here for education for school, and then I'm going back. Well, we fell in love, and then it was like this geography was like a big
Doesn't work.
It's tough if anyone's had a long distance relationship.
Sure.
So I said, okay, well, I'm early enough in my career. Maybe I'll try to get on down in the GTA, down the Southern Belt, somewhere, because that'll be better for us.
Yeah.
But I'm not giving this career up.
Right.
And she knew that. She was like, yeah, no, I get it. This is so hard to get into. Like there was 1,000 applicants and they only hire like 3 or 4. My class up there in 97 was a class of 9. And to them, huge news in the newspaper. The biggest class they've ever hired is 9. And I laugh now when where I am now full time in big cities, they do 30 and 40 and right. So 9 was huge, and to be on that list was just, you'd already felt like glory days, but you still didn't know if you had a job. So while she was finishing school, I was trying out in the GTA. Again, testing myself physically, mentally, but I'm already doing the job. So it was frustrating that I have to try to do a job. I have to try out for a job that
you got to go through the same process again.
That I'm already doing.
Right.
And it was interesting, but that put more confidence in the tests because I was like, I'm relaxed because like tomorrow I'll be on the fire truck. Like,
yeah.
Like I'm going to write this exam and do your physical and all this, but it's not the end of the world.
I found that when I went back to become a medic, right? I've got a career. I want to do this on top of that, so I was much more relaxed about it, right? But still working hard.
Yes.
And also because you know how to work hard, you know you will succeed because you've done it before. So you've got a template, right?
Having that template and having the walking into an exam, seeing other people sweating the way I used to,
right?
And they're like, "Why are you so calm?" I'm like, I've done this. I've passed this.
Right.
Now I'm just doing it again to move my position, geography.
What's the saying about us? You know, if we roll around, we should be expecting fire and victims, right? Like garbage men don't get excited when they come around the corner and see garbage. Right. Like you should expect your job. And be calm.
Very much
right.
So.
And then the competence builds confidence too, right? So you felt competent, so you felt confident.
Yes, exactly. While my time up in that northern city, I did jump into Combat Challenge.
Yeah. And that's where you and I met.
That's where we met.
That's right.
Oddly enough, a small town boy meeting the big city guy at a big competition.
I grew up small town too, though.
So it's interesting how I laugh at that engagement because your team at the time with the Combat Challenge was the best. When you showed up, everyone knew the red outfits. Oh, crap. Well, there's the team number 1 to beat.
Right.
And we were just kind of getting into it. We'd been, I think I did it for almost 5 years, and 3 of those years I went to the Worlds. But one of them was in Vegas, and I think we met. But your team and our team gelled quickly because we had no problem kind of throwing out the verbal like banter and digs. And people were saying, "Do you know who you're talking to? That is the best team." Like,
and here I had just started running with them, and I'm riding coattails basically, right? Like, who am I?
And I remember being on a stage on a warm up bike next to the fastest guy in the world at the time, who was with Brampton, and I remember saying, I didn't know who he was. Right. So it's kind of like if you've ever been in a situation where you don't know who the chief is or the lead, and you end up just talking very candidly.
Sure.
Thank God I was in the right place and I wasn't putting anybody down or insulting. Everything went very nice, and then someone.
But you're not that kind of guy anymore.
But I'm not that. So right, the default doesn't work that way.
Be yourself all the time.
This person left, and another person came over and said, "You know who you were just like talking to?" I said, "No, I have no clue. Just some guy warming up." That's not some guy,
Right.
So
in this world, that's the guy.
In this world, dude, like that's like the Michael Jordan right now of this world. I was like, oh, I didn't even know.
Right.
So, doing the Combat Challenge was also good to keep me fit, not for the job, but also for the tryouts I was doing down in the GTA.
Sure.
So it worked hand in hand. It was a great way to travel and meet and be with the team that I was on. I did some different work. I did some arson prevention for kids. So I wasn't just punching the tab at work and going, I'm a firefighter, click, and I click out at 5. I've done my job. I was like, when I got in, within a year and a half, I was like, what else can I do in this job to help the community?
You need goals.
I needed something to eat. I was thirsty.
Yeah.
I should be fine. I got my paycheck. I got the dream job.
Feed up.
Why am I thirsty? I'm like, no, I still need something to do.
Yeah.
So I think when that helped too, when I was in interviews in the South, was what have you done since being on your career? See, because they look at you and go, well, you're a professional,
right,
full time, but what have you done in the last 4 years other than show up and punch the clock?
They should do that when they make up captains.
Yeah, exactly. Right. What have you done in the last 8 years or whatever? Anything extra?
So to be a training officer on our job, you have to do an interview,
Right.
right? You have to submit a resume and do an interview,
Okay.
right? And then the most important job in the fire service, which
Yeah.
is that linchpin, the captain.
Yes.
It's a written test. We could go on about that.
We could-
I just want to drop that in the room and just acknowledge that it's interesting that then you're brought in, you're already doing the job, and they hold your feet to the fire a little bit. Like, what have you done since, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and you already had it in your mind, so you're prepared. But
Yeah. Whether it's committees, charity work, something.
What have you done since?
Because that's what you're actually saying when you're getting the job. They say, are you willing to do charity work? Are you willing to? The firefighters and fire departments are known in their communities for big people who give
Charity
donation
work,
and charity work. Like that's been a tradition.
Yeah, and we'll get there.
That needs to be passed on. And it's like, so you're like, oh yeah, absolutely. I'll give up a Sunday and go hold a boot, or and a lot of it's said, but then do the actions follow once you get on the floor? Or is it a spike? The first year and a half, you're still paying off that tribute to what you said, but then all of a sudden it just fades and just tapers to the point where, why do we see the same 6 people at the magic show, or the same 6 people holding the boot every year? It's the same people.
Yeah.
There's X amount of hundreds of firefighters, but how can we get that back?
And there's a balance of, you can't have a foot in everything.
No.
So you at least choose a few things and make them your thing, right? And I think especially in a larger department, there's a lot to go around.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of people to fill roles, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
step up and
absolutely.
choose something, right?
Yeah.
Right on. So, listening to your upbringing, you were definitely adaptable.
Yeah.
And you had a knowledge of a sort of a sense of hierarchy of your place in a moment, but also pride and self-esteem in yourself. So how did that translate? Like, bring me back to the first couple years on the first department, and even now, and then in the first couple of years onto your next department.
Yeah.
The settling in process, right? So did you adapt very easily because of your military background, because you're an adaptable guy? Like, how did that go?
Some of the traits of knowing from my father, knowing how the chain of command works, knowing where to put the respect. But an interesting thing on that is that you would think people would say, well, this is a group of people, and above this group is a leader, and he's called a lieutenant or a captain, and then you have above him, he answers to somebody. So you pay your respects to these certain individuals wearing these different insignias, whether it's stripes or stars or whatever.
Just because.
But my dad said to me, no. So I used to watch him go up to the base, and the janitors treated him with the same respect as the base commander. And I was like, very interesting to know that the way he handled himself with the lowest person,
or what's perceived as,
a
in the
non-ranking,
Sure.
maybe even a civilian working on a military base.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to be courteous, nice, or nothing to this person. He doesn't. He could not give him the time of day.
Right.
Walk right by him, and then salute the general, and then shake hands with a cat
Right.
But he would give the same amount of respect because that's the way he was. And then what I saw was later, when a time where he forgot his keys and we wanted to get in to get to the office and I wanted to work out, he's like, and the janitor said, hey, and I'll go back to my house and get the keys, and it's a 10-minute drive if you can wait. But why is he doing all this extra stuff for him? But it was because of the relationship that had been built and how the respect was given.
Sure.
And he's like, you're one of the only guys that even talks to me. I was like, wow. So I learned very quickly in the fire service, I was treating like the lowest man on the totem pole like he was a captain, because it was like,
Respect.
well,
is respect.
he has no stripes, but respect is respect.
Right.
And I always give everybody 100%, and it's up to you to keep it.
Yeah.
So it's different. Some people will say you have to earn it. I'll watch you, I'll be your friend, and you'll earn the respect. No. The way I start our friendship is I go, Scott, you have 100% of my
me.
Respect and loyalty.
Yeah.
But you're going to do things, or you may do things that's going to go down to 90, then 80, then 70. And I'll be able to say to you, I'm not your friend anymore because of the following reasons, because I gave you 100% at the beginning.
Right.
And all you have to do is keep it.
Yeah, the way I see it is that there's a line between us, and we each give 50-50, but I give 100%, is
Right.
my 50.
Is my 50.
And 100% is your 50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's up to you to lose it, not gain it.
Yeah, and then through experience in life, you can go to 80-20, 70-30, 60-40. It flows, right?
You know where people sit based on their actions, their loyalty,
Right.
what they've said, what they've did. So looking at when I went into the first 2 years of my life there, I was just ultimately respectful for everybody, treated everybody. I was the etiquette, and that was all built in, like being polite. And then just being accepting to, don't be afraid to start something that you haven't been told to start, because certain things that you can start in those kinds of atmospheres in a fire department is, do you really think somebody's going to get angry with you if you mop the lobby where people come in? You weren't, oh, that's floor day. No. But if it's full of salt and debris and crap, and someone says, where's the rookie? And they say, oh, he's down mopping the front lobby and shaking out the mats. Do you really think that's something that people are going to say, how dare he? And you get him up here, I'm writing him up. Right. So I found ways of doing things that I didn't need to be told. But then they would say, okay, stop what you're doing. We're going to actually go and show you something.
But knowing you, I think that also came from, see a problem, fix a problem.
Oh, yeah.
Not like, well, you have this thought, I'm going to mop the floor.
Right.
Someone's going to see me. I'm doing this for respect. It's like, it's a dirty floor.
Yeah.
This is my house.
This is where we live.
I'm going to mop it.
This is where we live.
It's his work ethic.
To this day, I think once a recruit came in and said, what are you doing? And I was deconning the office with like the bacterial wipes.
Right.
It's just because it's flu season, it's cold season,
right.
And it's not on any agenda, but sure is appreciated by everybody when you come in and the mouse actually is back to the normal color that it's supposed to be. And, and the keyboards are not full of gunk. And it's like, well, someone did some cleaning in here. It's just me. It's just kind of like, well, I don't need to be told that. And I think that carried off with at home, my dad giving my brother and I jobs, do things without having to be told, but I'll let you know where to slow down and where to pick up.
Right.
So I tried that up there. And
so coming from a new department onto a new department, you've got quite a bit of life experience at that point. Yeah. You've worked very hard to get there. You've got a significant resume behind you. I've had this thought recently, and I think it came from teaching recruits, and you're in their world, getting to know them, right? That we tend to see brand new people to the department as these clean blank slates that have nothing to bring, and we're going to teach them everything about life.
Right.
You're almost treated like a child in a sense, right?
Yep.
And I think we need to treat them in a way where you treat people, like you said, like when you meet them, is that I'm going to give you the respect up front. I want to know about where you came from and what you did. I want to use that because you bring something to the team, right? So did you get a bit of that when you came into the department? Like you had to sort of like put aside the fact that you've already been doing the job for a few years and they're treating you like you've...
Yeah, because in 2002, I cut to 2002, 5 years later, I get hired in another professional department in the big city. And my first thing is, don't tell anybody where you've come from, because you don't ever want to say, well, this is how we did it up north. This is how I did it before. I wanted to be a blank slate, but I wanted to have, but see, you can be a blank slate all you want. Your skills and actions will show people that you know more than what you're letting off to be. Like, so when the first time you catch a hydrant and I do it perfect, without being, okay, wait, this guy just did it perfect.
The person is cued in to notice that.
Right. Like,
I think you got to be tuned into getting to know people.
Yes.
And you pay attention to them, right? If you're not keen on getting to know them and you're the senior guy and you walk and you just treat them all like they're under your foot, you're not going to notice stuff because you really don't care.
And I think back in the day, let's say in the 90s, 80s, I think you did get people that came off the street like me with no fire background, no pre-service, no volunteerism, nothing. Literally, I call them like Joe Public. You're a civilian that wants, and we don't hire that anymore. Right. We're hiring people with resumes that are hugely built into years of either volunteer, colleges, fire colleges. They're getting their NFPA standards signed. There's a knowledge base before they've even started.
Right.
They already know how to pick up a ladder and put it on. They've done it hundreds of times at the college.
But I will temper that with, I do find, you did ladders for 5 weeks in your college course, and you don't know how to throw ladders. Like,
yes,
I've seen that too.
Yes.
So even though they've done it, sometimes it's a tick box, and have they put in the work to maintain it, right? Or that was 5 years ago,
right?
So keeping it up. So I find there's a balance of both, but at least you give them the assumption that you do know it. Once you show you don't, right? Then you can be surprised that they don't, because they should.
Yeah.
and then you show them, right?
And I still say in my teachings with the recruits right now, and being with the Honor Guard, and we get a chance to go in and speak with them about tradition, about the fire service, and I still tell them, in a lot of the older generation's minds, we look at the recruits like you're not a true. You're getting paid by the city of whatever you are, firefighting, but you're not a firefighter yet.
Right.
Don't think that because you have a uniform like me, that you're now just crack your knuckles and sit back on a chair with your feet up. I go, technically, the old school way of thinking, you can correct me if I'm wrong, you're in probationary status until you're first class. And that comes with a big heap of responsibility. You're being watched for the first 3.5 years of your career. Don't mess up. Stay sharp. Keep your mouth shut. Your ears open. You know, pay your dues.
When did you feel comfortable? Not complacent. When did you feel what year on? Can you nail that down for me? For me, it was around 10 years. I started to feel not. I use comfortable as in like you kind of let off yourself a little bit. I would say you have a confident, not comfortable, confident. Comfortable is the wrong word.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, because we could go into it. What's the definition of that? Because there's many definitions of that.
I'm trying to find the right word for that.
Okay, so I got on in 2002, first class. I would say, between, and only because of my 5 years prior.
Yes.
Because there were situations where at my 5-year mark, or right after my first class exam, I would say between 7 and 10 years was where I started to find that mode of
confidence. I would just say confidence. I think confidence is the right word.
Like I'm showing up and I'm not like
not arrogant,
jittery, and staying up and panicking, quizzing myself all the way to work and quizzing myself all day. Like being more like it'll be okay when that call comes in. I'll know how to figure it out.
I like the saying like confidence is not arrogance.
No.
And humility isn't self-deprecation.
No. Because most confident people are still the first people to say, oh, you guys are going off to just do a little bit of training on SCBA. I'll just come out and watch. They'll grab their coffee and come out and watch. Well, if he's so confident and he's so this and that, why is he still watching? Because he still picks up something or two from somebody's different
Well, this is how he stays confident.
This is how he... Well, it's true, right? That's why I say, and putting a recruit into a station is actually the greatest thing for the whole station.
Sure.
Because they all have to nurture that person and meet the standards, but pick their brain to see what they know. I
was telling them that their recruit class is 30 years long.
Yeah. That is a great statement. No, but it should be. You talk to some of the great ones that have retired, and they'll say, "I was learning right up until the last day." Yeah. I just thought of a guy that just retired last year out of my station, and he was still mopping floors as a captain on his last day of work. So, like, what's that tell you?
He's doing his job.
He never thought he was done or finished learning, or I'm below me.
He was getting paid that day.
Yeah. I'd say 7 years, because 7 was also plus the 5.
Yep.
So maybe only slightly behind you, but because first class was just, I felt like the eye of God was no longer going to be on me, because it would shift to the next person. And I felt like I'd paid my dues. I'm first class now, plus 5 years. I've seen sometimes more house fires than some of the guys with me. They're like, how many fires did you go to? And I was like, many. And they're like, I've only been to 2. And I'm like, well, brother, I've been to many.
Well, this is it too. When I say 10 years, we very much get focused sometimes on years of experience when it's experience in the years. I mean, like I felt like I had enough things happen to me in that, and it could have taken me 15 or 17, or could have taken me 3.
Yes.
When did I feel enough had happened to me where now when I see that again, I know I'm going to be okay?
There's a level of where there's no word spoken. You can look at firefighters around the world, and you're talking to someone who's seen a horrific car accident.
Sure.
They've seen their shares of VSAs, both child and adult. They've been involved in some kind of incident where there was that was close.
Right.
Whether it was to themselves or their team, whether it was a close call with a hazmat incident or a close call with a falling through a floor. So I was watching something the other day, and the person said, I can see it in his eyes. Oh, it was a movie, 12 Strong.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
And he says the leader walked up and said, "Hi, I'm the captain of this crew." And he looked over at the other guy behind him and started talking to him like he's the leader.
Right.
He goes, "Why do you keep looking at him? I'm the leader." And he says, later in the movie, he sits them in the room. He goes, "You see his eyes? That's somebody who's done some stuff."
Right.
I won't say what he said, but I don't want to ruin the movie.
Yeah.
And then he goes, "See his eyes? He's done some stuff."
Right.
Your eyes, you haven't done anything
Interesting.
yet. And I don't know what that is, but you can tell when you're talking to people. I've talked to many departments around the world in my travels of doing different funerals and whatnot, and you can tell if I've only been on 6 months, but you've already ran some stuff.
Right. And there's a difference between what have you seen and what have you done
Yes.
when you saw it.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
There is a big difference.
Bystanders with their phones up are seeing some stuff.
Sure, certainly.
But what have you done?
What have you done with that scenario?
You were at that fire.
Right.
You were at that car
Were you
accident.
staged on the road, or were you involved taking a line in? Couldn't see your partner in front of you.
Right.
You know, I think that's the analysis of people you get when they're talking, how you see them in their eyes, and that's experience that you're talking about. That 10-year. Like I remember saying, they said, "Oh, have you had anybody who's passed or died in your presence?" And I said, "Well, there's been some car accidents where that happened." And I said, "But not up in the northern departments, we weren't tiered response."
Yes.
And there was no defibrillators.
Mm.
So coming to the bigger city, and they're like, "Oh, by the way, we run 70% medical calls." And I was like, "Well, I don't want to be a paramedic. I want to be a fire guy." Yeah. And they're like, "Well, get used to it."
Yeah, 454 VSAs, and we hook up for 127 of them.
Right. Yeah. So by the way, you're going to become like a medical guy.
Right.
Whether you like it or not. And I was like, that was actually, I would rather go into a screaming basement fire than early in my career, then go into a med call where someone's VSA.
That's an interesting point that you're making right there. That when we ask about confidence, and it doesn't all happen at once.
Oh God, no.
Right. So,
common conversation with rookies, in my experience and hearing still to this day, is the counting of those kinds of calls. Hey, I had my second VSA the other day, and I always go, well, I wonder when you're going to stop counting.
Right.
Well, when did you stop counting? I go,
I don't know.
You'll know. You'll know. You will count for a bit. You'll say, I had 5. I've had I had a really bad accident.
Right.
Where there was a lot of the helicopter orange came, and then and then the next shift I had a VSA, but we just assisted and there's this sense of you're gathering your experiences to a point where then there's no need to talk about it anymore.
Are we doing that? Are you doing that as a rookie for yourself, for your own tally, or are you doing it because we put that on them? Like they know that they have to. Or they have this feeling that they have to get experience to be respected. They want respect.
There you go.
Right?
It's not, again.
So we put it on them.
That's not a textbook thing. That's a thing in the fire service. I think that we put on them that,
rightly or wrongly. I'm not saying it's right or wrong.
No.
I'm just trying to tease out what that intangible is. Right,
buddy, brother. I felt like I wasn't. This is a really weird statement, but I see how it comes out. So I was 5 years full time.
We can edit it.
It's 5 years full time firefighting, but it wasn't until I had some VSAs, some bad accidents, until I felt like I was part of the actual brotherhood, sisterhood, the family of firefighters. I had the eyes. I didn't feel that, even though I'd come from many fire experiences. I was like, these guys aren't going to accept me. And it was really weird. It's like, to this day, you'll always remember your first fire, your first. Sure. I can remember my first VSA. Yeah, this will go down. I remember the first VSA, and I remember the feelings afterwards. And I remember one of the feelings being, as I pulled my gloves off and there was blood and whatnot. And I remember looking over at my partner and going, in my own mind, I think I've gained some respect today. From them, from the real guys. Yeah. It's weird. I always look, these are the guys that are doing it. It's like you're a ride along for like a Navy SEAL program, and you're in the back of a Humvee going, I'm not a Navy SEAL yet. I'm dressed like one. I'm holding a gun like one, but those guys are the real deal. And if I could get them to look at me the way they look at each other, I feel like I've made it. Well, if you go like 8 weeks without a call, that would never happen in the big city. But if you did, you wouldn't feel like one of them yet. Right. You'd feel like the ride along who is trying to become one. When you start doing things with them, that you start to merge into the world, and all of a sudden there's this. Now you're part of the family. And
do you
I don't
think
know
in that
where
moment,
it comes from?
Do you think you it's even more so that you all of a sudden respected yourself doing what you're doing?
Yes. The training, the practicing, we did what we could with what we had.
Right.
We didn't create the problem. We're there to fix it and do the best we can. How it ends up is not up to us. It can be if we do our training. You don't want to make mistakes.
Right.
But it felt like we did everything we could perfectly. Captain was happy. The doctor was happy with that situation. Or if it was the chief, happy with a fire that didn't spread. Like we lost 1 unit, but you saved 4.
Right.
you felt like, yes, this is awesome.
Because let me put it to you this way. So you get on as who you are, and you get with a crew that no matter what you do for no matter how many years, they would never give you any respect, right? So do we wait for that to come from them as our measure?
Well,
I consider what I've learned recently in we learn a lot of things as we go is hinging on other people.
Yeah.
And if I'm hinging on other people, then my whole mentality is dependent on what they do. So if you say something bad about me, I feel bad. If you say something good about me, I feel good.
Right.
Whereas shouldn't I just, and you had it, right? You knew you should have respected yourself all the way along.
Well, yeah.
So regardless of what anybody else says, you know, I would just speak to saying a rookie coming on, say they're in a department or a crew, or there's somebody on that department, on that crew that they want to like them, and they can really make themselves miserable, right? Where you could just look at yourself
with acknowledgement,
and I respect myself, right, and I have confidence in this, and I know I have the best intentions, like, and that's tough when you got to do that for yourself when you're not being taught that or given that. So I just want to give you that, like, what do you think about that?
Well, what I think is that yes, you can give it to you have to be able to give it to yourself, or look in that mirror and say, you got to be proud of who you've become, because it is a small percentage of the world in every city that becomes fire, police, ambulance, military.
Right.
You're a part of a very small percentage.
Right.
So giving yourself at least that to chew on. Secondly, if you're not running the calls that you think are going to make you more in with the crew, with the department, then place the onus on yourself to become better at all the small stuff. Be the person that knows exactly where in the filing cabinet, where something that guys are always looking for.
Right.
Be the person with the answers around the station. Where's the mop handles kept? Just be good at all that stuff, because that also plays into, you're getting respect, even though you'll actually hear senior people say, I know you haven't had your big call yet. You know, you're kind of a white cloud. You haven't had a big fire. You haven't had a VSA yet, but don't worry. You're doing a good job. Like, guys are respecting you.
Right.
And why is that? You show up on time because you care.
Right.
Because you're not, because the worst thing you can do is see someone with zero experience that they're looking for, and then see them in a complacent mode where, like our phrase, the 220, where they think they've made it, and they are dressed like us in the seat beside us. So therefore they can be doing the same kind of nonchalant thing that you're just sitting there going, how in God's name
now
is this person so calm and so unaffected by anything?
Right.
Is it because they are that great? I'm thinking they must have come from another department where they were 15-year full-time person. They just haven't told anybody. Right. And if your answer is no to that, I'm scared. Right. How are you sitting so calmly?
So I think what we're looking for here is to find that sweet spot, right, between that, right, and then being too hard on yourself. Where, because guys like us, you can. I was saying this to someone I was mentoring recently about when are you gonna feel the self-respect? When are you gonna feel the self-esteem? Like, you're gonna keep moving the bar. The bar of self-confidence and self-esteem. Not complacency, always striving, always learning. But at some point you got to be good to yourself, right? And you could constantly be in that state of, like, I'm never good enough.
And you're right. It's a sweet.
And that affects your performance. When you don't feel good enough.
Oh, then you're just going to be more the sidelines person who would rather keep walking back to the truck to find a tool and not be really part of the auto extrication.
At some point, you got to I can get in there, and I get in there. So when does that happen, right? And sometimes you'll hear them say, they don't know. They can't give you an answer.
Right. And you said the sweet spot is because then we get the new recruits and the firefighters with the years of that go the other way. And they have way too much confidence and way too much know-it-all. The know-it-all guy.
Sure.
Where you're saying, I appreciate your passion. I appreciate your attempt at becoming really part of stuff, but you do need to gauge back a bit and just still in a learning. That was big for me, because there is fire departments that hire other firefighters. You're getting people that are well experienced, but you're getting different. I don't even want to call them habits. You're getting different skills. The habit of how you carry a ladder up north or catch a hydrant might be different than the big city, but it doesn't mean the job doesn't get done. It just means it's a different way of doing it that you're used to, which we then call, well, that's a bad habit. It's not a bad habit because it works up there. And no one called me and said, you have a bad habit of catching hydrants. The way you work an auto extrication scene, it's a really bad way. And when you go somewhere else, they're going to say this is a bad habit. Like, that's not the way it is, but it's only because you have to adapt quickly to your new surrounding, your new department, and cannot forget where you came from. Right. See, and I that's what I think sometimes the rookies get, like, told, kind of, not told, but maybe they just feel like they need to, like, wash away everything and clean slate.
Yeah.
Well, you only have a clean slate if you don't know anything about anything.
And just because your department's done that this way for 20 years doesn't mean it's the right thing to do.
No, absolutely not. No, and okay, if that was the case, we'd still have horses.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Someone's got to go feed the horses. Why? Well, because we're not going to progress, because what's the point of having wheels and trucks?
Yeah.
And the same with all of our equipment, all of our training.
Yeah.
It's constantly being revisited.
Every progression is not something brand new.
No.
But every progression is not something that's faulty, right?
Right. If you told me, because I didn't have the thermal cameras technology, and I'm probably an interesting firefighter, because I've seen that where there was no technology and grown through the digital natives.
That's
now.
our generation.
That's our generation. Was we search a room with our right or left hand searches,
right?
But then all of a sudden I come down to the big city and they're like, we got this thermal camera that can see in the dark and see heat in walls. And
sure.
So you can walk into a room we're sitting in right here with a thermal camera, pitch black to the floor, and do a sweep of the room, up, down, left, right, and go, nobody's in here, without even moving.
Yeah, for a general sense, yeah. Behind something, underneath something, in a closet.
Is there a human being in that room?
In the space I can see.
In the space I can see, absolutely not.
Yeah.
We train, though, okay, technology fails. What's your go-to?
It still needs to be checked.
It still needs to be done that way. We have computers on the truck that guide us to a call, but if the computer goes down, we have a map book. If the map book goes down, what's that? Your memory. Remember that thing where people could say, I can drive to my friend's house without using the, what were those map books you'd keep in your car? Those Atlas map books?
Yeah. The random McNally.
We used to just remember.
Troubleshoot. And
I think the value in keeping people in their station for a long period of time is they get to know their area without maps, without computers, and say, you can make a left up here and you'll come right back out on whatever. Right. How do you know that? Because I've been here for 10 years.
Right.
I know that. I don't need a computer to tell me. Yeah. You know,
or you're moving to Station 6. Where is that?
Where? Exactly.
Really?
Yeah. So.
So talk to me about. Did you work the same shift?
No. So that's a nice transition, because up in the northern departments, 4 on, 4 off was the style. It was 4 day shifts, 4 off, 4 night shifts. They were 10s and 14s, but they were in groups of 4.
Right. When I did my exchange, it was 2 days, 2 nights, 4 off.
Okay. So
which I thought was amazing.
So still 4s, but 2 day, 2 nights.
Yes.
And ours was grouped straight days, then 4 off, then 4 nights.
And
so
did you just like that because this was what you knew?
Well,
I never felt like I was at work.
That's it. Every second month, you had all your weekends off. From like Wednesday to Sunday or Thursday to Monday. It just floated. But every other month, you wouldn't see your friends or family. Right. Because there'd be every second month, you'd have no week. You'd work all your weekends. I thought, coming from Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, like, shift work was, wow. Like, wow. Right. This is one of those perks that no one talks about. And they just, this is amazing. Yeah. So then I come to the big city. I get used to that for 5 years and love it. Can't speak highly. Come to the big city and they're doing 10s and 14s, only they're doing it in a weird 5 days, you know, and then you have some off, then you do the split
4
nights. Yeah. So it was nice to have the comparison, because right away after about the first 2 weeks, I was like, oh man, these guys need to do back 4 and 4. Right. They don't know what they're doing. Right. But after about a month and a half, I was like, I don't want to do 4 and 4 ever again.
Really?
Ever.
Really?
I was like, this is way better.
Interesting. Okay, so why?
The only thing, traffic patterns wasn't the greatest. Obviously, leaving work at 4:30 or 5, and you're just like in the thick of it. But that's commuting problems.
Sure.
But I think I don't know if I'm using the right word. Your circadian rhythm.
Circadian
rhythm is was met. I felt it was better for some weird reason. I felt like I'm catching my breath faster. It was working.
Right.
Excuse me. So then to now be on the 24-hour shift, I've had 3 different styles of shifts.
Super great perspective.
And I've had them in lengths of time where you can really settle in.
Okay.
And if you were to vote on it, you're just like, I don't know. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Right. Like, this is working.
And did you adapt to each one?
And I adapt to each one. and can say great things about each one.
Well, you're an adaptable guy. I think we've established that.
Yeah, and that's what I mean when someone said, "What are you voting, 24 or the 10s and 14s?" I'm like, I'm happy to have my job and come to work. I don't care what they tell me.
Sure.
If I was getting hired today and they said you're welcome, it's 24 hours we do here.
Okay.
Great. I said that's the way I feel.
Right.
If you said, well, we're going back to 10s and 14s. Great.
Yeah.
I mean, what I wouldn't want is the Monday to Friday 9 to 5 because I was like,
at least we never talk about that. We should when we're ever at a meeting discussing shift, we should always start with an agreement, right? I remember just a quick thing. We were doing some high rise bundle testing with some crews the other day, and we're all there in the stairwell and we asked about the whole the bags we have currently, and everyone in the whole space just like, oh, we hate those. I'm like, okay, hold on, everyone stop. Let's just all take a moment to see that we all agree on something.
Breathe.
This doesn't happen often. Let's all just have a moment of silence for the moment we all agreed on something.
If you started any conversation with, I just came from a Chiefs meeting and he's thinking about going back to, we're going to do the first thing ever in Ontario, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5.
Yeah.
People would lose their minds.
They would lose their minds. Worse than the 24.
So be careful what you complain about.
Sure.
You know?
My thing was, how do I complain about something I haven't done? So I couldn't really judge how this new shift was going to be until we worked it for a while. Like I do a trial period for 6 months to a year.
Yes.
I guess a year or more maybe to really settle in.
Yes.
I'm just saying prejudging something before you even know what it's like.
Right.
That's a tough one.
That to me,
I have a hard time swallowing that comment.
I was the same. I was like, we at least, at minimum, need to do a trial run.
Yeah.
For 8 months to 12 months.
And if you hate it in a year,
and then we vote.
Yeah.
And I think what the bigger cities found when I was talking to them, I've been talking to a lot of people about different things. That's an easy one to say. Which shift are you on? And then you start talking.
Right.
A lot of them said all the naysayers after 6-7 months became like, okay, I never want to go back.
Right.
And
that's what I'm saying. You don't know.
They didn't know. They were all like pushed back. We pushed back a lot of things,
Sure.
just out of fear
Everything.
of routines, and the routine has worked. Why are we changing it? Right. Well,
and then what I want to comment on that. So what I've come to realize too is it's frustrating because we all got on the job because I want to do something that's like just changing all the time. I can't just do the day in day out. I need unpredictability.
Right.
I need excitement. And then when change comes, I don't want to change.
Yeah.
Right?
So true.
Isn't it?
And what they'll say to their friends and family, what they love about the job is it's different every time they go to work.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, hey
here's
guys,
a new shift. I don't want to do that.
We're doing floors more than twice a week now instead of just one day.
Right.
What? No, it's got to be floors on just one day.
I want to come in, have my coffee, then check the truck, then.
Yeah.
Every day, forever, for 30 years, punch the clock.
Yeah.
Wrong job.
Yeah.
You had your opportunity to grab the 9 to 5. If you want that,
I mean, there's got to be routines, and like you said, like checking your gear needs to be part of a routine. But we know what we're talking about.
I call it we talk out of both sides of our mouths often.
Yeah,
don't we?
No, yeah.
You can't do it.
You hear that a lot.
Yeah. So, what are some of the things that you think have been gained or lost given the change of shift?
This road I go down a lot since we've been doing the 24s. Prior to the 24s, I started doing my own reconnaissance about what it will possibly do to the traditions, to the family at home, to the fire family in-house. Mm-hmm. And I heard a lot of different things, and most of it the needle tipped a little more to the negative prior to us going on the 24s. But where I am is going to go on the 24s, and how have you guys handled it? They're like, oh, well, it's great. I mean, your circadian rhythm and all that, and health-wise, there's benefits there, and we're still putting in a 44-hour work week. If you do it by hours, we're more than the average person.
Sure.
They don't see it that way because they just see us dimple the calendar month with 7 or 8 shifts. But they said, it's the traditions and those family feeling routines which may have drawn you to the career. You got drawn to this career not to just get a paycheck. You got drawn to the wearing of a uniform, the brotherhood, sisterhood that's around the world, becoming part of the biggest global gang on the planet.
Sure.
Where with a red sticker on your truck, just driving here, past an accident, some northern guy's fire truck, yellow bunker gear. It looks like old volunteer stuff, but they were all helping out at a car. And as soon as they saw the sticker on my car, they all gave me a wave. The captain gave me that nod.
Yeah.
I don't know who they are from Adam.
Yeah.
But I bet you I could have stopped and felt like I'd worked 20 years beside those guys as brothers.
Sure.
And that feeling is what maybe brought you to the job.
Right.
When you start to lose those qualities, because getting to know you, Scott, if I went to your station on an old shift, remember the Monday to Friday days?
Mm-hmm.
I really get to see Scott in all his moods. You're tired. Right. How he is when he's tired, how he is when he's hungry.
Yeah.
Oh, we got to go. He's getting hangry. Just knowing
his routine
was easier captured when you had 5 days with them.
Right.
Seeing somebody for a snapshot of a 24-hour period, and then you don't see them again for 2 or 3 or maybe 5 or maybe 7. It's taking longer for me to get to know my rookie than it would have been the old shift.
Yeah, fair enough.
We no longer say to ourselves, hey, every Thursday we're all getting together for a couple of bevies after shift. Most of C shift will be there. We can do that because we leave work at 5. You can go kill a couple hours, let the traffic die down, and go home. Well, on 24s, it's all happening at 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
6:30 in the morning. No one's going anywhere together.
Right.
Not even a tee off. Right?
Yeah.
So we used to golf before nights, come in and do a round of 9 of golf.
Right.
Some crews would say, let's do a round of 9, then go in on a night shift.
Yeah.
That family, that off the job, you work with them, but you do things, you paint, you sports, you play with these guys, hunting, whatever you do, was happening, I think, more on the old shift. I think now people have more time to get back home, retreat back to where they're from, and have that life.
Right.
Which I think is a great balance. I always tell people you shouldn't just have your firefighting job and your fire family. A healthy environment for your career setting is to have outside friends and family that are not fire.
Yeah, I've described it as like you need a lot of pillars underneath you.
Yeah.
Because if one fails you,
and
you're all in on one of them,
right. Who you reach for? Who you're reaching for as you're slipping down the slope?
You knock one pillar out, I got 6 more.
I got 7 friends outside the job that they know me what I do, but they don't treat me. They're completely different than my job guys.
Yeah.
And when I say guys, I'm always meaning the fire family of women and everyone as well. Yeah. But I think where traditions are lost is at the 24-hour shift. Retirement parties used to happen right off a shift. So more people were there. That's an immediate. I see only a retirement party. I see 20 retirees come to have and I see only the people that work with that person from their direct station and maybe a couple others. So retirement parties that used to be 80, 90 strong are now like down in the 25 and
unless
30.
They've made a really massive impact. Like we went to one years ago with one of our district chiefs.
Oh yeah.
And it was standing room only, right? So
I think that the shift work can affect some traditions.
So do you think it's the shift to blame, or because we just haven't figured out how to adapt and
it's the shift? No, I'll agree. I'll put it out there. I say it's the shift to blame, and here's why: is because in my mind, this is just me. As soon as we went to 24s, all I said was, "Oh my gosh, there is so much more time to grow the Brotherhood family, like the family barbecues, going hunting with 5 or 6 guys."
Yeah.
I thought this is better because we're only coming in sporadic.
Right.
That gives me 3 days. We can do a better golf tournament. What I'm finding is hockey teams, the C Shift Open.
Interesting.
It's like you have to pull teeth.
Yeah, because maybe after 5 days together straight, you probably wouldn't want to see each other for 6 days.
No, you're good.
But now you'd think you'd be open to seeing each other more, right?
I only saw you Monday. Hey, let's do something on Thursday. Hey, you want to go? Jordan's saying he wants to get the crew together to go bowling for Christmas. Just a bowling.
Sure.
Well, that has to happen on a day off.
Right.
And now those people have to commit to 4 or 5 hours of their life on that day away from family. And I'm thinking to myself, and we used to come in 5 days, people.
Right. 5
days you were away from your family.
This is what I'm talking about. So let me just like focus on that for a minute. Is that you have the mentality, right? That no matter what shift, or you even saw the benefit in this shift, to make it work, and it was a benefit. So that's where I'm saying: is it the shift, or is it the mentality? Right? Because if you had your way, you would still have both.
The get-togethers would still be as frequent,
or even more so.
I'd love to tell another department. If some Australian dude said, "Hey, you guys run 24s? Yeah, it's fantastic." Well, what about the the brotherhood, sisterhood? What about the doing stuff on and off work?
House like surfing. I mean,
yeah. And it's like, no, that even got better. You'd want to say, because now there's more time to go out on a boat ride with the crew or do a crew event.
This is where I argue it's the mentality, not the shift. I think you can, and we're getting into brotherhood, right? Like, I think if you care, you said before we started talking, right? If you care,
you'll
the
show
rest
up.
just happens.
You'll show up. You plan the event at 4:00. People will be there.
Doesn't matter what shift. If you care, you're going to show up. Yeah.
Right. Oh, right. What shift? What hour shift you're working? The old 10s and 14s versus 24. You plan a golf thing. People are going to show.
We were almost at when you're at work more often. Like you're away from home. Like it would almost be. It's harder to find a day.
Right?
Well, you just did 5 days in a row, and now you're going to go out on a Saturday, right? Where if you did the 124 and you got 7 off, you could easily pepper a day in there.
Yes, you should be able to.
Yeah. So I think maybe, and this is where we get into like how. Okay, so then this segues nicely. Like how do we, because I think what I'm seeing is this resurgence of the necessity for tradition and brotherhood. You see this. And the sisterhood, the family, right? And that's inspired me seeing these other guys like Mark Von Happen from Fully Involved, and then Trial by Fire with Jared, and there's a lot of these guys are like, no, this is important. We need to hold on to this because we see it sliding, right? So
yes.
How do we?
Yes.
And with your work in the honor guard, which we just barely even scratch the surface on, like how do we bring that ahead with us? It's a complex. I don't mean you don't need to have all the solutions. I mean, there's
no,
generational.
I won't have the answers. I mean, but to be able to look back at our past and say, well, what was? Remember the fishing derby? You remember these events that were more about socializing than about no, but you didn't even have. I went to the fishing derby and I didn't even know how to fish. Like I didn't have my own gear.
Right.
They're like, listen, you don't need to know how to fish. Just come.
I went to house league hockey,
and
I couldn't stop on skates.
Our rookie doesn't have golf clubs. Just come to the C Shift Open. I'll throw you a couple drivers and
play
you'll
out of
be
my
fine.
Bag, whatever.
And it was all about. It's more about the social event. So looking to our past and saying we need to do more of those group events, whether it's for a full platoon or whether you're just looking after your 2-truck station. Somebody needs to jump and go. I'm going to plan. This has nothing to do with Christmas or anything.
Sure.
I'm going to plan I'm just going to like a bowling night. We all don't know how to bowl. We're all just going to have some bevies and have some fun and bring your family, and that needs to happen because what do they call it? Not camaraderie, but like
the cohesiveness.
The cohesiveness of that group of people will now have. I always said it's awkward when you go on when you shift exchange or you go to another hall and you don't know the inside jokes.
Right.
So someone will just say a word,
right,
and everyone's laughing, but you, because you're like, I wasn't here when that happened. Right. What are you guys talking about? They'll let you know gladly and fill you in on a joke, and then you start to feel. But when you start doing those kinds of events, you're creating all kinds of juicy strings that tie us all together.
Right.
Because a nickname came out that day, the way he did something with the golf ball, or when you guys were out hunting, he ate something that made you all laugh, and now there's a bit of a nickname about that. And, and you wouldn't have that.
You puked in your golf cart or something.
And that's where other people, and this is interesting because other people in other corporate world, other jobs will say, I work with my colleagues, but I don't know them the way you guys seem to know each other.
Right.
You have to do things with each other other than work too to also get to know who somebody is outside the job. Like you could be like, I didn't even realize so-and-so was into that, or was into doing tattoos or whatever. Like I've worked with him for 3 years and I didn't even know he's a tattoo artist.
Yeah.
Well, you never got to know him just on a social call, which would be out at some party or get together. And now you're talking about get away from the work,
right,
and get to know the person.
Well, this is one of the main driving factors behind this. Is like, I want our department to get to know, and other departments to get to know you, and get to know these group of people. Like,
get to
know each other, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I know when I hear other people on your show, it's going to be enlightening.
Yeah.
To know that someone I thought I knew for the last 18 years, I only knew 60%.
We've had that
20%.
experience this morning, right?
Like, what? Like, you want to be a pilot? You actually had your pilot's license for a small, whatever, like whatever that is.
Sure.
It connects. I did a thing at one of the meetings I was part of, and I said the icebreaker. We all, anything. I said, listen, everybody's going to go around the room and introduce the person beside you and something that nobody knows about, just their name and something that no one would know.
And it's always an awkward thing to do, but it's
awkward. And I said, you can make it up if you want.
Sure.
Yeah, you like skateboarding still.
Sure.
It doesn't matter to me. If you want to be honest, great. It'll be fun. If not, and you should see the amount of information you can learn in that one little iceberg moment. I didn't. And there's connections being made.
Yeah.
Oh, my daughter was looking for someone like you because she's doing a project on. Can I talk to you afterwards?
Right. I'll get your cell phone. Well, yeah.
But if you keep all that to yourself and you don't do anything social or no group events in the fire service, we're only going to know each other for that brief little 24-hour period.
Yeah. The way I've thought about it is that the job is good without all these extras.
Right.
Without a great crew, it's a good job.
Oh, God, yeah.
The job is good, but you get a great group of people, it's a great job.
Great.
You add that on top of it, it's a even greater.
Yeah.
So sometimes, and this is my worry where, coming on and people have been for 5 years and that's already been lost, they don't know what they're missing.
Right.
They have no idea, right?
Oh, nice.
They have no idea what they're missing. So they just think this is just the way it is.
I guess when we all say goodbye, we don't see each other for 7 days. Nobody even texts each other. We don't talk to each other.
Yeah.
Nobody plans an event at Christmas. Came and went. And nobody even said,
Right.
hey, we should maybe get together and go for drinks as a crew. Why is that? Oh, I guess that's just the way it is.
Yeah. And then I think, then let's talk about,
Interesting.
where it really matters, where I think the rubber hits the road is, and then let's talk a bit about honor guard, about the heavy moments,
Oh, boy.
about the calls, my
mean-
work with peer support,
Yeah.
what I've found. I mean, and I have the privilege and honor of getting to know people at a really deep level,
yeah.
right?
You're-
Like with no barriers or boundaries. It's
Yeah.
all raw, and then we could go on about that. But so what I'm saying is, I think this family, this brotherhood, the importance of that really matters in the heavy moments.
And there's the unfortunate
Aspect
aspect of a fire funeral is there was a picture that was taken. One of our department members, a higher up chief, had passed, and we did a toast. The honor guard did a toast in a private room, and there's a moment where someone took a picture and said, in that moment, it was the greatest moment, but saddest moment.
Exactly.
At the exact same intersection.
Yes.
It was this moment. The family of fire service has never felt so
gratitude.
powerful.
Yeah.
And being able to support the family in this way and just show that this is how we support. But then it was the worst moment, because if you think about what it is you're at, the loss of a life,
right?
And you're like, how can the two be on the same exact moment?
And those are the purest life moments, right?
And
when it's that layered,
when people see the honor guard come down and do a flag folding ceremony at the front, and that's not happening to the general public, folks. That's reserved for police, fire, ambulance, the emergency service, family, and military.
Yeah.
And everybody else, not to disrespect anyone's funeral, but you're not getting the details of the respect shown by people that come from miles away,
right,
to stand in the cold outside of a church and salute a casket going by. That's not happening for any civilian. That's what makes it. And I believe, to get back to the roots of honor guard and those moments of details, is they need to be kept even more so in the tradition world of paying it forward to the next generation, because as leaders in the community, we're showing it's actually not pomp and circumstance it's for the fallen. We honor, remember, and support. That's the three things Canadian honor guards do. Right. But we're also showing the citizens of the communities we work in, this is how we honor our heroes, our fallen. And if you do not take a truck through the streets with the salutes and the flags if you're not ever, imagine if we did everything behind closed doors. The reason for it is to show little kids, the community, that look, this is a special funeral. This person did above and beyond the call of duty and possibly gave his life.
Right.
For this is who we should be respecting, not the second string basketball player, the second string football player who makes $10 million a year,
right,
and hasn't performed for the last 5. Look at this. Does his funeral plays out like anybody else's?
Right.
Yeah, some nice flowers and bigger arrange, but it's not this. This is reserved for the very few. And
I was just having the thought while you were speaking that we shouldn't just be getting together for funerals.
No, yeah, and when I see other department honor guards and we go, and it's that weird handshake. Good to see you under different circumstances. It would be better.
Yes.
Like, I'd like to see you. And so, what's funny, you should mention that, because in just the honor guard realm of firefighting, Kitchener finally created this honor guard convention, because we're people too. We feel too, even though we may stand stoic. we're doing our job in the moment, but we still have feelings about what's happened.
You're thinking about it more.
We're very like being different of standing on the curb at a car accident or getting your elbows deep into the blood.
Yeah.
We're involved more.
Yeah.
So there's no way you can be not affected after the 20th funeral.
Peer support works the same thing.
So we decide to have a convention where we all get together, where we can shake a hand of Toronto firefighter and say,
Yes.
it's good to see you, so and so, and we're not at a funeral, so let me go buy you a drink.
Right.
Like it's not like, oh, you know,
You can feel light. You can feel.
you can smile, because a
smile.
lot of times you don't want to show those emotions because it's just it may be seen,
Sure.
perceived as, well, they're laughing over there.
Well, I've even had that thought that cues my mind of like on scenes, right?
Oh yeah,
You see a guy and you haven't seen him in a while, and you have this big smile, and you give him it, and then for the public to see that,
perception's
they're
huge.
like, "Why are you in such a good mood?" And you're at this. It's like, no. It's like it's a different part of my brain. Like you don't.
You and I grew up where we could go out to a club, and which we may have during the combat years,
Right.
and do
Once or twice.
and there was no cameras, no phones, no cameras. You do what you want, how you want, and knowing that it was a memory that you would keep, and the people that were with you,
Right.
and a story to tell.
Right.
If you never told it, nobody knew.
Yeah.
We're in an environment today where social media. What do we see? You know, cameras are up, and when we arrive, on everybody in the public, waiting to catch our mistake.
Yeah, you're on video.
Waiting to catch that moment where they can become somehow famous from catching something that shouldn't be happening.
right,
The
right.
joking going on, like you said.
Right.
So you got to be constantly aware of your surroundings now.
So the honor guard, how and when did that come to you?
So my father he was the ceremonial honor guard commander for Canadian Armed Forces base, and at home he was always it's funny what you end up becoming. You know, you say I became my father, not trying to, but now I watch old war movies and I polish my boots. And I remember seeing him for years going, why does he do this? Like, what's he doing? He's
history and tradition.
He's doing arm curls and polishing boots while watching old war movies. Oh, what an idiot, you know, every night. And now that's
so
what I do.
boring.
My wife now joins me. It's like, oh, I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Seeing him with his uniform and his white belt and all his regalia, I always was like, wow, that's a whole different division of the military, like being not just on the honor guard, but being the commander. And so as soon as I got on one thing that drew me to Brampton was when I got on the department and our graduation and this honor guard showed up, I was like, it was like, everything's going to be great. I'm already in cloud 100.
Right.
And all of a sudden I hear these pipes and and honor guard comes in. And
you get the goosebumps.
And I'm thinking they hired somebody, right? Like this is probably an other city. Like you hire a pipes and drums band to come in to do your event. So then I see the flashes and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's Brampton.
Those are our guys.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Those are our guys.
Yeah.
And I was like, so wait, this is an option? And when you're new, like you said, you don't want to put your feet in too many things.
Sure.
Just be a good firefighter.
Right. Focus on.
And I remember that because I knew it was all going to be new, all this medical stuff, and I was but I remember saying to the leader that night, what would if I want to become part of the honor guard, what would I have to do later? Not today, not tomorrow, like later. He goes, well, like you said, get yourself settled, but then you can start coming to practices and just show up. Your actions will speak louder than your words.
Yeah.
We have a lot of people that say that. We never see them. So I just, it was and done. As soon as I felt like, I remember bouncing it off some of the senior guys. Do you think it would be wrong if I started doing like a little something? Like,
You're biting at the bit meanwhile, right?
Not the committees and not joining a whole bunch of stuff,
Sure.
but just, can I just do that and not be seen as, what's this rookie doing?
Yeah.
No, go ahead. Come with me. And so that started that ball in motion. I think it was like after about a year and a half in, maybe 2005, 2006, I was just on the honor guard, and I was happy to be on. Whatever you want me to do, this is great. And they already saw, well, our recruit class, I pretended to be the commander one morning. He showed up, and I didn't know, and he was watching me be him.
Oh, wow.
Impersonate him.
Amazing.
But because the guys, during our warm-ups and our practices, we'd march every morning before class in front of one of the stations, and the crew would come out and laugh, and I think I was the only one that stepped out one day and started yelling.
Sure.
And they're like, "You're perfect for this."
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, I'm just playing around." They're like, "No, but you really got a good handle of all the commands already." Like, I was like, runs in the blood. Just joking.
Right. Yeah.
Cut to being on the honor guard for more than 7 years, and then those
Leading
commanders starting to say, "We're going to retire soon."
Succession planning.
Who do we see has the passion? Who do we see notices the details? Who do we see wants this thing to keep going? And then I got approached. I got the tap on the shoulder. Would you like to start grooming? Become like an apprentice so that you can learn our job, and then we'll give it the torch to you later. And I was like, are you kidding me right now?
So funny you say it. So I had this experience that, trying to get on the job for about 4 years, and you're in your interview in your head, you're like, they just got to give me a chance, got to give me a shot. Like, I deserve this, and I'm good for this, and I know I can do it, right? Like, and then I remember going down the road on my first call on a night shift with a guy that'd been on longer than I've been alive.
That's happened to me already too.
And to be honest, I had this thought in my head, like, oh my God, do they know that they let me do this? Right? I was hyper conscious of the fact that I had the passion and drive in me, but the self-esteem, self-respect maybe wasn't, you know what I mean? Because you still, that whole complexity that we talked about. So I was hyper conscious of what I didn't know, and when I still had to learn, and I had that little bit of like self-doubt, like, oh my God, they're actually like, this is legit. I'm in a uniform. We're going. So fast forward, did you have that moment when you were on the honor guard and then someone says, you should run this? Did you have something like that where you're like, why me?
I did when I was approached.
I don't know if I can do this as well as you guys have. Did you have the self-doubt?
Yeah. I said I would gladly assist a more senior person who's been here longer. I feel like I would be cutting someone's grass, or I would. Yeah. I'm very grateful and thankful you even approached me on this topic, but at the same time, maybe it should be a 2-person job, and I'll just be like the co leader, or the assistant of somebody, because I don't know how that's going to be perceived. Like I always see in hockey when you see someone get the C, the captain, and it's like a 2-year guy on the team. I always wonder, does the whole team go, well, that was a bit too soon?
Right.
Or is it because that person's such a leader?
Yeah.
They're like, no, it perfectly fits him.
Doesn't matter how long he's been here.
And we all actually will follow him wherever he goes.
Right.
That's like,
we're glad to have him.
So that was the other side of the coin, was at the same time I'm going, if I was to say yes to this, are they going to follow me? Are they going to agree with the things I may change? Or if I don't want to change anything, that's great. But what if I change something and everyone's like, what's he doing? No way.
But I think the fact that you have that train of thought go through your head makes you the right person.
Possibly. Yeah, there was definitely.
Right? If you're like, of course I should do this.
Oh, yeah, no.
You see where that goes different?
There was hesitancy, and there was a lot of like.
Because you respected it and you cared.
Well, yeah, it's like you can't mess up in that position. Like we could say turn to the right, and I can be a little bit slower than the guy beside me. So it's we still aim up the same direction. But as a commander, you got to know the commands. You got to know what's happening with every facet of that day. And all I kept thinking about was not the easy marches down the street or for different parades. I'm thinking of the funeral that counts, the LODD. Like that is when, like it's your highest honor to the family, and supporting them in the best way you know how, to give them that presentation that the world is kind of, actually nowadays there is this expectation that, well, what I've seen in movies is, all these white gloves and the ride on the pumper and the aerials are up with under the Canada flag, and some people think like every funeral is going to have all the details, and it's like actually wrong. It's just reserved for the line of duty.
Right.
The passing of any firefighter though is all still respected.
Sure.
In different ways.
But there are set down standards.
We're not folding flags and giving it to the family for everybody.
Sure.
Do we want to? Yes.
Yes.
Do I feel it in my heart when I have to say, there's those 5 details we can't do, but I want to do them.
Right.
I think he deserved it after 25 years.
Sure.
But it's just, you have to then, you're disrespecting the LODD style of funeral. You're disrespecting those people.
Right.
When someone, so that's been my, it's hard to emotionally detach and become part of preserving the tradition
structure
versus what you feel like you would like to do.
Right. Interesting.
And overall, the family can trump it all if they want and say, we just don't want anything.
Right.
Well, that's fine.
Right.
But just so you know, this is what we're prepared to do. These honors don't come with, I have to go stand at a visitation. We're honored to be there.
Yeah.
And be the support, be that solid oak tree for the family. That they're just like, they're always in that awe of, these guys have been here an hour before everybody else, and they left an hour after, and they stood all day, and they didn't say a word, but wow.
And let me offer some well-deserved kudos, and I'm sure you hear it all the time, but our honor guard, we're leaders among the service,
and that was
right.
Leader when you, like I said, with Combat Challenge, when that department would show up and you go up,
right.
There's the guys that we know are the best. We bring with us, and I would say we in terms of the flash on my shoulder, not me, the person.
Yeah.
If I took this uniform and gave it to my neighbor and walked him to Ottawa in September, he would get the same acknowledgement. It's not the person.
Right.
It's our department that has been around since 1976, and there's only maybe two other, maybe Calgary is close to us in longevity. But at actual activity around going to event, everyone's always happy, proud to see a Brampton Honor Guard there because they know they're being looked after. Now it's like, if we have any problems, just ask them. Right. They seem to have the eye on the details. So that was another one of those moments. If I'm being asked to lead, am I ready to lead a team that amongst other teams is seen as, oh my gosh, like literally have emails that come to me from chiefs of other departments saying, we were told after asking around to ask your honor guard.
You're being asked to quarterback a team that's got a dynasty attached to it.
Right. And so I'm just trying to keep the bar where it's at, but you know me, I got to send that bar higher. So worst case scenario, the next leader, if he falls short, he'll only fall back to what we were already at, which would be a longevity of,
which is still great,
keeping it going. It's great. It'll be honored, but I'm trying to say, let's see what more we can do with this honor guard and not always do funerals. Maybe try doing sporting events, some happier things.
Yeah,
and I'm
not
thinking
just funerals and funerals.
I'm thinking about the mindset of my guys and girls that are on the department that standing at funerals. I had members say, Jordan, I don't think I can do another funeral for a while. And I was like, oh, you okay? No problem. Sabbatical, no problem. Yeah. But can I ask? And he said, I don't want to tell you why. It's not that I can't fit my uniform. I've got too big of a beer belly. Right. But it was. He says, I'm just mentally exhausted at being at seeing the funerals that we're going to, and the PTSD kind of could set in at any minute if it hasn't already. Yeah. So it was like, take a break by all means. Like I said, we're human. Right. I mean, I don't want to even put a number to how many funerals I've been to. Yeah. But I think there was some preparation in my particular life with that working at the graveyard.
Sure, there was.
Right? Yeah. Like weird how that is. So I'll always be asked, how come around the funeral homes and around this environment, you seem, like you said, or like I heard on somebody talking, I'm not seeing through straws. I'm seeing like the big picture. Sure. I'm not tunnel vision because I'm panicked. I'm like calm. Right. I'm like, because I've been in this environment since I was like 16 years old. Yeah, yeah. You're comfortable and confident. Yeah. Comfortable with knowing what is about to happen. Sure. How to treat people in these, how to act, how to talk, look, see, everything. Right. A lot of people don't go to a lot of funerals. Right. It brings up a lot of things in people.
It's a cultural thing, right, for us too, right?
So with our traditions of our department, that is one that I hammer home with the recruits, that you are on a job where you're given a dress uniform, not your fatigues. I'm talking your dress uniform. Right. And when that goes on, it's the highest. It's the ones that have come before you that have paved the road that you're on.
Yeah, I've mentioned that to rookies too. The recruits that you go grocery shopping or step out to get fuel, and people just look at you and they automatically give you respect.
Automatically.
And you've been here for 3 minutes. Right? So you have to think about that. Yes. Right? Yes. Like there's a reason that happens.
Yes.
So don't ruin it, right?
No, the paying it forward of everybody's good deeds. If we start to become all introvert and all about ourselves and the world owes me and that if that creeps in too much, the communities, like I haven't seen them do any charity work in the last 5 years, and I haven't seen them do anything nice and whatever. They're just overpaid, whatever. Right. You don't want that to happen. No. That's what we're trying. You're saying when you start to see a slide, that slide could be literally a slippery slope. Fast.
Very much, way faster than it took to build it.
Right.
It's like working out, right? Like, you work out for 6 months to get in shape, and you take a month off. It's like base jumping.
It's like you're almost like, and I'm done. I'm not going to start over again. It's like, wow.
And when you started over a number of times, you realize how hard it is to start over, and so it's easier to keep going.
Totally off topic. When I'm on a cruise ship for a holiday and I see people working out, I get it now.
Yeah.
I go, honey, why the heck are they?
You have the time to,
because they're saying I don't want to lose that week. Yeah, I want to stay on that at least. Yeah. But no, it's
so with that transition then from being on the honor guard to running it, and we talked a little earlier about we can always be moving that bar ahead of us and never feeling like I'm ready. Yeah. Or never allow. I've been trying to tell recruits to you got to celebrate the little wins.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
and for people I've mentored, like celebrate the little wins. No one expects you to be a first-class firefighter. Be a really awesome fourth-class firefighter.
That's exactly.
No one expects you to be a paramedic. Be a really good firefighter at this VSA.
Right.
Like, so have confidence in where you're at.
Right.
And don't always be thinking of what you're not, because that always just kills your confidence and it makes you feel worse.
Absolutely.
Right? So I've had this moment recently that at some point you and I became some of the senior members in our department. And this happened.
Yes.
So, but if you never, so it's important to have your recruit class is 30 years long. It's important to know that I still need to come in and care. And it's not about kicking your feet up, but what I'm talking about when that happens is, I finally arrived. Now I can relax.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like, oh my God, we're the ones that need to set the tone. Like we're the ones that have
nicely said.
We have to carry the tradition.
Yes.
That our senior firefighters did for us. Now we have to do that. Yes. And if you weren't paying attention to what that was or haven't figured it out, now you're not in the position to do it, and you're not doing people below you any good. So
because of your lack of caring along the way, you're now like, I don't want to be the one that shows somebody how to use the tanker because I don't even know myself.
And you're afraid, like, right? So I think when you go to teach as well too, so for me, the moment was when I went in to teach. So when you're going to teach something, if you can teach firefighters, you can teach anybody.
But if you can teach something, that's when you know it.
Oh, cold, right? And but I'm saying you need to, because you're going to get, and rightly so, you'll get questioned and carved and peppered, and if you don't have the answers, then it's a humbling experience, and
sharpening experience. You're getting sharpened
at the same time, but it's a wake up moment.
Oh yeah,
like, oh my God, like I should have known. I thought I knew a few things, and I really didn't know that. And now I've got these 4 other things I have to learn, right? Okay, so what I'm driving at here is when these wake-up moments, and I think for me that was mine, and that transition to I look around and some of these recruits start to look up to you a little bit. You're like, I have a responsibility here.
Yeah.
So how do, and we talked about the tradition sliding. So how do we, because we're it, man.
Oh, it's
we have, whether we want it or not, we're it.
Yeah, we're it. And there's a lot of there's different firefighters you'll look at and say, if you were to set a tone, you don't be following that person over there. While they're a good firefighter when the tones go, they're not setting a good role model kind of position around the station.
And if we don't do it, especially as more and more classes get bigger, you have. I noticed this I'll offer this at one of our stations where when I got on, we're telling when I got on stories here. When I got on, everybody knew you were the brand new person.
Absolutely.
The whole department.
Oh, the whole sorry.
And you were on with really senior people. Mm-hmm. Now, as our department grows, there's a lot of 5 years, 10 years, 11, 12, 8, 7. Like they're all younger.
Yeah,
years on.
Some looking older.
So, but they outnumber the senior.
Yeah.
So those cliques can sort of build. And if you don't step up and try and set a tone, then they're just going to follow each other and create their own.
Right.
So
which might be right or wrong. You don't know.
It might be better, but I'm saying we're in this environment now. Yeah. So how do we do right by the people before us?
Well, this is the group. I was talking to somebody about this at work the other day, and I said, we are in the diminishing group. So to me, and in life, I think you have all these 3 groups represented. In if you could parlay this into everything, you have your older generation, seniors, vets, whatever you want to call them. Your older group is one group, and they're the ones that are already looking to the way out. The door to the exit is already within sight, but maybe it might be a 5-year window, might be an 8. But they're already going.
You see the red glow of the sun. Yeah.
There's not much. You hope they don't just throw in the towel and just sit there and wait for that day. You hope they keep trying to change the department right till they leave. But what you have to understand is that group exists, and they may not be putting in they have the experience behind them, but they may not be putting in the effort and energy on a day to day.
And you also don't know what they've been putting in that whole time.
Well, yeah. Was there 25 years of like complete craziness? Yeah. And now they're saying, "Can I have a break?"
Yeah.
And then you've got your other group, which is the rookies, the freshman group, say 6 years and under.
Right.
And that group is thirsty, and they're sponges, and they're looking at you, they're green, and they're like, what can I learn from you? What can I learn from you? What am I going to learn today? And you got to feed them.
Yeah.
This middle group is us. It's the senior guy position, the middle group, which is a perfect bridge for the rookies to come through us, instead of going to the captains, which they might be a little bit afraid or apprehensive about.
Sure.
So they ask a senior guy, right? Not the very senior, but they ask this middle group, the 10 to 23 year guy.
Sure.
And the senior people that are almost on the way out are relying on that middle group to like pretty much, like, I heard someone say, you know that in big cities, the senior man position is actually trains the crew. The captain doesn't do much,
Right.
but be a captain.
Yeah.
But the senior man does all the training for the crew.
Like the lieutenant.
Like the
I'm not sure
lieutenant.
how they run, but
Right.
yeah.
And I was like, interesting, because that keeps the knowledge being given backwards from somebody who's been there and done that,
Right.
not just from the textbooks.
Right.
Obviously, policies fall into place, but it's like,
Yeah.
and also my experience teaches me this.
Learn the box and learn what's outside the box.
And that little group, like you said, we set the tone for what the young ones are watching, and we also kind of set the tone for how to remind the older ones. You might want to get up and help here, or
Sure.
because I'm going to be you soon,
Yeah.
but like at the same time,
Yeah, or we can go to them and
Or-
say, "Hey, man, like, listen, like,
yeah. And you fall in that. You'll see this middle group of people fall in that. And the needle will say, "I don't care anymore." The youth, they're all about themselves. The millennials, or they're like, "I want to help," or they
Yeah.
don't want to help, and they want to almost gravitate towards the way out.
right,
And it's keeping yourself, like, the first thing I tell somebody when they come to station where I'm at, I say, "You want to know what you have to do to be here?" And I'll say this for your whole career. It's the hardest thing to do. Not hard, not going into basement fires, not
Right.
saving people. Do you want to know what the hardest thing for your whole career to do is? And I'll just say it, to care.
yeah,
I said, and they're like, and there's this huge pause because they're expecting something magnificent.
sure,
And I go, I'll let you marinate on that for a second.
yeah,
Think about that word. If you stop caring, if you don't want to show up on time because you just don't care anymore.
right,
If you don't want to help out with this dinner, I don't really care.
yeah,
If you stop caring, everything falls apart.
yeah,
I said, if you can, the hard complacency and trying to care right until your last day
yeah.
is the hardest thing.
Complacency comes from not
Complacency comes from not caring,
Yeah.
and complacency, we know that evil thing. It just
caring.
grows all kinds of mistakes, and
Yeah, right,
oh yeah, I guess he hasn't thought about that in a while because he totally messed that up.
right. And have you found through your career that in your own mind, because even it's somewhat, so if you've waned a little bit, because we always have there's this wave, right? I think sometimes you're in, even with Mark Von Appen from Fully Involved, and one of his main blogs that got a lot of traction was, "Are you always fully involved?" Right? Like,
Yeah.
and he's definitely pushing where you need that message, and he was very honest about, not always, but you have that keystone,
Yes.
right? Of like, where if you've worked out for a long, long time and you stop, what it can be.
Yes.
But we stop exercising a little bit and then we work it a bit more, but you always go back to it, right?
Right.
Like, have you had those sort of wave moments in your career? And
In 20 years, I can say, yeah, I have.
Yeah.
I've had some moments where
me too.
Maybe it's kind of more like, I'm going to let go. I'm going to not do what I normally do just to see how others react.
Interesting.
I want to, like, there's a funny meme out there that I look at sometimes, meme,
Yeah.
meme, and it says, a lazy person can go on doing nothing and nobody bats an eye.
Right.
The busy person stops for one day and everyone loses their minds. It's a picture of the Joker like, and everybody just loses their minds.
Right.
It's like,
right.
and sometimes I feel like that. And there's been times where I'm like, today's a day where I got more going on and maybe I need a mental break.
Right.
So I'm not going to appear to be the first one up to mop the floor,
Yeah.
or the guy that's helping out wash the trucks. Or
Yeah.
maybe I'm looking more like, oh crap, that senior guy
Yeah.
who's kind of thrown in the towel a bit.
Right.
And does it bug me when I notice it? Yeah, because I'm thinking, crap, what if today was the day they were watching me, the young
Right.
ones, right?
Right.
And I'm like, oh man.
It's funny that as senior, we're as a rookie, you're worried about, are they watching me? Isn't it?
Wow.
See that?
Realization.
See that?
I never thought of it that way,
Yeah.
but you get to a point where, and I'm talking when you're the most senior guy, maybe the top two
Yeah.
of a truck where there's 8 people on duty,
Yeah.
10.
You
10 to
are
8.
the person.
And wow, I never thought of it like you always feel like you're looked at because you're the
And
young.
you have to live up to
Then it
something. You have to
switches.
earn their respect.
Right. Then you get it. There's only a moment in there where maybe when you're not the rookie and you're not the senior guy, you're that middle, hey, I'm 7 years and no one's looking at me and
Yeah.
I'm not expecting to know too much. Like that's an even smaller group. But then you're training yourself from that point forward to create a routine of caring and a routine of I got to now start looking at what am I being. I'm going to be looked at very shortly. And in our city, blink your eyes, and you're the senior person for a day. Even a couple of shift changers come in. Oh, they're brand new, and they're a shift changer from another. Oh, I'm the senior guy on the back of the truck.
Right.
Yeah, only because you got 2 years experience, but more than them. I tell this to the rookies all the time. Know your boss's job. Know the person in front of you. Know their job just as well as you know your own. If you think you're getting bored of like, oh, okay, I got this hydrant position down.
Right.
Then start pretending you're the driver.
Yeah.
And start pretending learning his position, because one day you may have to step up. Right.
We talked about that before we got started about how we tell ourselves this story about how the heavy call is going to go. Right. Mm-hmm. This is what will be the expectation of me, but that guy will do this, and the captain will do that. Mm-hmm. And then we now have this hindsight where you're like, what happens if the captain goes down?
Right.
What happens if the captain and your senior guy goes down? Who does what now?
Like,
it's you.
Is it a frozen moment where you just wait?
Yeah, like the job will find you.
Well, nicely put.
The job will find you. No matter what station you go to.
And no matter if you're talking fires, automobile, Auto X.
It's going to find you.
Medical.
Yeah.
The captain gets distracted by someone with a fighting in the kitchen. Your driver comes in, and the cop pulls him aside, and now you're making the call in a room full of people, somebody unconscious. The job will find you.
Yeah.
But I'm just the rookie.
Yeah.
I'm the defib guy. I don't.
First week on, you could have the biggest call of your career, right?
Yeah.
And, no, but I'll have time to settle in and figure all that out.
Right.
Right.
No,
I don't need to worry about what a captain does. I don't need to worry about the radio, because he'll do all that, or she'll do all that. That's what they do. Really?
Right. You need to always be aware of your surroundings, that at any minute, and that's going to help though later in your career. You're going to be able to say, it's not about overriding a captain's judgment of what he wants, but your 2 cents can change.
Sure.
Just letting you know, Cap. I noticed on the Charlie side that there was this. And he might say, oh, thanks. Wait a minute. You know what? We're not going to change my tactic now. Right. Let's get an aerial around back. Just that information
They can't
change.
see everything.
They can't. It's a team.
It's impossible.
Right? But you're not trying to do his job.
No.
But you can help. You should know what to look for.
Or what if he has this perception of you, like, oh, I've got him with me today or her with me today. They've been here this long. They don't really know you, but they have that this pedigree they think you fit, and then they stay outside mobile command and send you in.
Right.
And now it's you and the brand new person.
Oh boy,
right?
That's a moment right there, because you're going back to even your normal radio procedure of entering
all of it.
So when thinking about that, when you're with your team, know all your positions of your team just in case.
Sure.
Worst
at least
case,
know the benchmarks.
At least, right? And I think a lot of us, including myself, at times have said the same thing somewhere in our career.
Yeah.
Going into a high rise. Oh, well, it's I don't know. Lobby sector is going to be given to some other.
Whatever, it'll be worked out.
I won't have to. Hopefully, I won't be second truck in. And
right.
But
Okay, so I'm conscious of our time.
Yeah.
And I know we wanted to get to, and this segues nicely into the senior firefighter. What do we hand down? What are the intangibles? So I think what would be nice to finish on would be. You brought with you a list of things that you've been thinking about.
I can read them out. We're not going to have to go on tangents on all of them, but just hearing them, kind of like I call them, it's labeled on my phone, Brampton ethos statements, wise words from senior members, however you want to put that. Wise words from senior members.
Right.
The first thing you have to do is care. We talked about that.
Yeah.
Communication is key, and I've learned that now when leading the honor guard and having to text 30 people, find a ways through social media and through all the technology we have to keep everybody in communication with each other.
And not what you say, how you say it.
And when you're instructing a group. So communication's key. I think you touched on keeping the bar moving forward in your career. Don't go back. If you stop, that's it. And I have a saying here.
You're either getting better or you're getting worse.
Yeah, it's like about a shark. A shark has to keep moving forward to live. If it stops moving forward, it just dies.
Right.
And so keep your career like a shark. Keep moving forward. Keep learning.
Right.
Slow is smooth. Smooth is fast. That's with everything. Sometimes you see the rookies just rushing through getting their gear on, or just rushing. It's like slow. When we say slow down, we don't mean don't move with purpose, like because there's somebody that is hanging out of a window. What we mean is slow down, because then that'll create it to be fast, because you won't have to go back to the truck three times.
Yeah.
forgetting
I think
tools.
I think what we're looking for there is how to remove the nervous energy.
Yes.
The panic.
You'll hear that.
It's the panic, right? Because we talked about that our slow is very fast.
Is very
right?
It's true.
Because and if you've trained enough, you're slow. What you think is moving slow is actually very, very quick.
Yes. Expect the absolute. I use this a lot. Expect the absolute worst. It's easier to gear down than to ramp up.
Oh, that's huge.
Less mistakes. And
That's
the reason I
huge.
say is this: I always call medical when our announcements come in through comm. They say you're going to a medical call. It doesn't matter how much detail they give us. I say to them, look over to the rookie and I say, it's a medical surprise. And he goes, what do you mean by that? I go, it's a medical surprise. This person could be hanging. This person could have a gunshot wound.
Right.
But they just said difficulty breathing. Let me tell you something with experience. How many difficulty breathing calls, and I use the air quotes,
VSAs, yeah.
and they turn out being an infant. Or they
Right.
turn out being a mother hanging in a basement. I go, listen, prepare yourself for the
Right.
worst so that when you get there, you just gear down.
And and sometimes you can feel guilt just quickly. You can feel guilty about that too. I remember, going to a pot in the stove call, and I'm fully packing up, and I look over at a guy. He's been on, was on almost as long as me, and he's just sitting there. He's like, "Oh, we're just bring the extinguisher," and then I kind of felt like you're nerding out a bit, like
Right.
But I'd rather take all my stuff off,
Right.
and then
Thank
grab the
you.
extinguisher, right?
Right.
Well, almost because then I would get into panic mode. So I'm almost doing myself a favor.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Of getting off. Now
But you're an asset when somebody meets you at the end of the driveway and says, yeah, it's fully ripping.
Yeah.
And then he says, I need someone to go in there. Who's the only person dressed and ready? You.
Right. But then let's leave it at that you're only as fast as your slowest guy.
Slowest guy. Right? So, yeah.
You're still at the door waiting and tapping your fingers. Yeah.
Respect your elders. Most have been there and done that. Their words have wisdom and shortcuts built into them to help you. So it's like a senior person talking to a rookie while they're washing the dishes, and he's telling them words of advice for an Auto X.
Right.
Believe the fact that he's telling you for a reason.
The little things.
Yeah. Respect authority. I say respect the rank, not the person. We have rank structure for a reason.
Yep.
Somebody with 4 gold bars walks in. It doesn't matter what you've heard about them around the table. It doesn't matter what stories you know, or you maybe know them personally and you can't stand them.
Right.
You still respect the rank.
And I think, that's an interesting point too, quickly, about as senior people, we can set the tone, right?
Yes.
Because if we could almost flex the muscle of like, oh, hey, chief, and just sit there.
And right. I still stand.
And then the rookie be like, oh, why doesn't he stand for that person?
Yeah. They'll notice too.
Right.
Like kids. Like I don't have my own kids, but kids would notice your actions going, he doesn't stand for the chief, but he stood for the district. Like,
Right. Why is that?
What's up
You're
with
picking
that?
and choosing, right? So I can pick and choose. Right.
Teamwork, be the hardest worker in the room. That just keeps you out of trouble because everyone
But
will
no,
say-
you're not the smartest.
But know know your job and your boss's job. Some of these we've touched on. Always have a partner, a backup. Do things in twos, 2 in, 2 out minimum. And I say that because leaving a captain in a house talking to a homeowner by himself while everybody's back in the truck.
Right.
If something were to happen, there's no witness. He doesn't have anybody to say. Nobody was there to witness what that person said to me or how that person punched me or.
Right.
So always
Sure.
just go back in with your captain.
Having
and-
each other's backs.
having each other's back. It's
like,
like you don't know the world today, what they're going to try to do, right?
But I think when it comes to skills, you should be able to do fundamentals by yourself.
Right.
Force a door.
No, yes.
Unload
In that
hose.
sense, go to Charlie's side and do the following, and come back and report what you
You
see.
can do it by yourself.
Come on.
Throw a ladder. Yes.
That's using using your manpower to your
Right,
help where required, but don't be a know-it-all. I think you just said that.
Right, yeah.
Wow, great minds.
Yeah.
Practice like you work. Mistakes are better made in training rather than in the real world scenarios.
For
So
sure.
practicing. Yes, I always say, listen, we're going to go practice on the tanker. We're all going to make a mistake right now.
Yeah.
So let's just get that out of the window. Now we can be calm.
Sure.
Because there is going to be 3 or 4 mistakes. I really don't care because
Yeah.
I'd rather it happen now.
That's leadership right there.
Yeah. Once you lose the respect, it's hard to get it back. It takes a lot of work. Ask questions. Don't assume. Be on time. Check your gear always. Down to the bottom. Always remember you are living someone's dream.
Oh my God, that's a big one.
Think about that one. Like,
Yeah.
just ask somebody who's still chasing it. Just ask somebody whose neighbor goes, yeah, I've always wanted to do that career, but I got a bum knee and then I just kind of faded, but I always wanted to do.
Right.
It's their dream. Like,
yeah. And Mark always puts it like, remember who you said you would be.
Nice. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I don't think there can be. I mean, guys can roll their eyes at these inspirational quotes, and
Yeah. They
but
can.
Really, I think we need them as reminders, right? Because it's a hard go, right? And I think you need something to keep it lit, Like
Yeah.
you need to keep that passion burning inside of you. So
And as senior guys, that's our job, is to keep those things being verbally said, being listened to, whether it's throwing a video, quick YouTube video up of somebody talking about it.
sure.
Just hearing it again. Oh yeah.
Right.
I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, and even if you're in a crew where no one else, like I went through a moment where I was disenchanted, right? Where I thought everyone thought the same way about the job, and then you meet certain people, you're like, oh my god, like you're here, like why do you hate this place? Like this is amazing, right? So
Right.
and then you get kind of disenchanted, right? Because you think
do.
everyone is just on cloud nine, but I think then you align yourself with the people that really feel the way you want to feel, and then you just follow them, right?
Right, brother. I've always said, and where I am now at 20 years in, I've said to myself, it would be so cool to be in an atmosphere of like-minded people on the exact same passion level.
Sure.
So right now, you can say you have a great crew, but there's always the ones that fall through the cracks on their passion level, their commitment,
Sure.
their seriousness, their tone, what they're giving off every day is always negative. Like that, it's just, wow, this guy's angry.
Yeah.
But like, is he purging because he's seen something? Is he got some issues, or should we be, But it's just to be on a team where it was all the same would be just like, wow.
Yeah.
How good would that day be?
Right.
And you see it sometimes when you walk into a shift and you're like, he's here, she's here,
Right.
that person's here, that's our captain. This is going to be a glorious day, right? Like,
And then nothing happens.
and then, yeah, of course, that's the jinx. That's the jinx.
Yeah, that's right. Well, this has been awesome.
Oh, no, hey, this is a first for me. I've had
Cool,
many
man.
firsts this year. Being able to write a magazine article for the CFFF and being
Nice.
able to, this podcast is going to go down a very high benchmark and something
cool.
to be a part of.
And thanks for making the trip up. And
Oh, no worries. Like I said, I could go in there grumpy, angry, and rip a new one off of them. But I said, as I'm driving, I'm like, this is nothing compared to minus 40 up north.
Sure. And we're not rolling frozen hose right now.
Yeah. See. Yeah. Exactly.
Which isn't a bad thing, but it's not. Let's just be honest. It's not an enjoyable
It's not
thing.
an enjoyable day. Yeah. New techniques are learned when it's
Right on.
frozen.
Cool. All right. Well, safe drive home.
All right. Thanks, Scott.
Cool.
Take care.